Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today what I want to go over is some gear and specifically my take on Line 2 gear. There's a lot of great information out there um, of all sorts, and what we have to do is take that information and use it to come up with our own way of doing things based off our environment. So, I live in the high plains and the Badlands of the Rocky Mountain region. And so I've taken my experience in training and in the military and applied it to my area of operations, if you will. And so I have two different setups here I'd like to go over with you guys today. And they both follow the same guidelines of the same kind of criteria. So in the past, I've talked about my Line 1 gear, which is our survival equipment that we carry on our person. That way, if we get separated from our equipment and have to go into our recovery plan, then we can uh, protect our core body temperature and stay hydrated while we're doing that. Our Line 2 gear, on the other hand, is what I call my fighting and scouting load. Okay. And so, regardless of what the weapon system is or what the gear is, here I've got a chest rig, here I've got a Hill People Gear kit bag, here I've got an AR-15, and here I've got my practical bush rifle, which is a 6.5 Grendel Ruger Ranch. And so, regardless of the weapon system or the gear, our Line 2 has basically two purposes. And that's to support our primary weapon system, whatever it is, so that we can project force. And that's just kind of a fancy way of saying so that we can use the rifle the way it's meant to be used, right? Whether we are defending ourselves from other people or projecting force onto something like a deer, because we want to eat it. It also provides a place to store immediate use communications and observation equipment. When you're out as part of a team or when you're hunting, you're looking for bad guys, whatever the case may be, you need to be able to shoot, move, and communicate. Everybody that's been in the infantry knows this, and this Line 2 gear helps us to do that within a certain level. I'm not going to put an HF radio or some other communications equipment on here that I'm going to be using to communicate to people who aren't in my immediate area. I'm using this to communicate with the guys that I'm actually working with. And I want observation tools that support my immediate needs in my immediate area. I'm not going to carry a 40 power spotting scope on my chest rig because that's a piece of equipment I can put in my pack and pull out as needed. All right, and I'll get to what I'm carrying in each of these in a minute. Next, we should have the capacity to store multiple rifle magazines to facilitate easy reloading when necessary, obviously. And so we're using it to carry our ammunition. It may not be all of our ammunition. We might have more ammo in our pack, but it should have enough ammunition that if we get into a fight or we have to use our weapon for what we're out there doing, we've got enough ammo on us that we can move and fight with it. Okay. It should contain the owner's IFAK, which is your individual first aid kit, so that if he is wounded in a fight, his team will be able to quickly help him. And so on my chest rig right here, I have an IFAK. That IFAK is not so that I can run around and help my buddy if he gets shot. I'm going to use his IFAK. And if I get hit, the people helping me are going to use my IFAK. Okay. One of the other criteria, along with medical, is that we should have an easily accessible tourniquet so that the owner can begin life-saving measures on himself immediately. So we want a tourniquet that we can get to with either hand so that if we get hit, we can immediately start doing what we need to do. Okay. Communications, like I said, it carries any inter-squad communications devices, and these will most likely be needed during a fight, so having them easily accessible on the fighting load is important. Like I said, if I have to talk to the other guys in my team, I don't have to dig a radio out of my backpack to do that. I'm also going to carry any important common signal notes and any non-electronic signaling devices should also be on this gear as well. That could be smoke, flares, whistles, air horns, whatever your non-electronic communications means are. If they are important to be used during a fight, then they should be on you. I want to have room for a small scanning optic. Basically, what I'm looking for is an optic so that I can frequently and easily scan the terrain for threats. Obviously, both my rifles have magnified optics, and I could do that, but we're not always in the situation where we want to just be pointing our rifle all over the place just so that I can see what's over there in those bushes, or so I can clear a route through an area. Okay. And doing it off of a rifle, it's also tiring. And after you get hot and tired, you're not going to want to pick your rifle up to scan all the time. So having that small optic to just sit and scan with, maybe while you're taking a halt, is really handy. And since, we store it on our fighting load, so it's always with us. Say we're moving through an area and we need to go pop over a rise through a saddle and see what's on the other side. Having that with us allows us to go have a quick, easy optic so we can do those things. Our equipment should be comfortable and it should distribute the weight well, and a lot of that has to do with how you pack it. And it also should allow excess heat to be ventilated. If you've ever wore a flak jacket or a full body armor, you know how hot that stuff can get. It should be easy to shoot from and access extra magazines or other equipment while in the prone. A lot of work you're going to do is in the prone, and we want to be able to get to that gear without having to stand up or get up and make extra unnecessary movement. The equipment should be easy to put on and off, especially in the dark. We want to be able to basically do it blindly. The equipment should fit well so that it's not flapping around, making unnecessary noise and movement. So that just means it should be well adjusted, and all the pouches or other accessories, whatever's attached to it, shouldn't be just flopping all over. I'll go over some of this. The equipment should not be bulky. That way the user can easily navigate through obstacles with it on. If we have a big Michelin Man, silhouette profile, and we're trying to crawl under a fence, we're going to snag on everything. Or if we keep things nice and trim, we can get through those obstacles easier. And, speaking kind of along that same line, we don't want a big bulky mass because A, it makes us easier to see, and B, if we're moving through bushes and trees and such, because that's the environment that this gear is tailored for. I live in a very rural area. I don't care about urban combat. I'm not in an urban area. So I tailor my stuff to rural. And so I don't want a bunch of big bulky gear because now I'm breaking more branches, more twigs, leaving more sign, making more of a trail. I don't want to do that. Okay. Basically on this gear, there's really no survival or sustainment gear. I don't have any water bottles, no camelbacks, no fire starters, no knives. I don't have any what if gear. There's no poncho rolled up on here, no shelter gear. It is dedicated to fighting and scouting. And the reason that is because when you get into a firefight, your only objective in life at that moment is to either win that firefight or break contact. All right. We're not out there to build shelters and start fires and purify water and eat chow. Like, the only thing that matters is keeping that rifle running long enough to shoot everybody that's shooting at me. And so that's all I need on here, because this is what's going to keep me alive for the immediate, problem that I have to deal with. So I don't want any extra stuff on here because I want to be able to dump all that stuff off my ruck, basically dump my whole ruck and basically just go to taking scalps with just this gear right here. Okay. Now remember, I still have my line 1 gear that's on me. I've got my belt knife, I've got my compass, I've got my Leatherman, I've got a Mylar blanket, and just some bare minimum stuff. So even if after that fight I'm separated from my pack, I can still take care of very basic needs and implement my recovery plan. All right. So let's start with the first setup. What I'm just going to call, for lack of a better word, my fighting setup. because the kind of situation that I would use this rifle is one where I primarily am worried about fighting other people. All right. So that's going to be this chest rig and my AR. This favors short, high round count firepower while in a team over long range power. Okay. And so, I'm going to be out there hopefully working in at least a small team where we can all work together to defend ourselves. All right. Go ahead and put it on real quick so you guys can see what it looks like. All right. So this is just a chest rig, split front chest rig. That's what I kind of prefer. I like it because basically I can do this, vent off some heat. That's my main reason I like that. Okay, just some general notes on any of your gear. Here I've got two buckles, two ITW buckles. I like to take a real fine grit sandpaper, like 600 or higher, and basically buff these and just reduce all the shine coming off those, because a lot of times they come out of the factory and they might be the right color, but they're pretty shiny. So I'll just buff those. If you need to, paint them. Don't be scared of putting a little Krylon on your gear, okay? Right here's an ITW buckle that I don't ever use. And so any buckle that I don't use, I'm going to wrap it in tape to secure it so it's not wobbling around, squeaking and creaking, and I don't run the risk of accidentally popping it and my chest rig flopping off while I'm trying to move quietly, okay? Anywhere where I've got extra webbing, probably up on these straps, I'm just going to roll that up and tape it up as well. All right, over here on the left side, I've got that inter squad communications, just a small VHF, UHF radio with a low gain antenna. I've also got communications information that I may need. Just kind of stuff so that I can stay in communication with my teammates. Because my radio is important, it gets dummy corded. And that's why I've got this Grimlock down here on the side of this pouch. Now, some people are probably going to poke fun at me because I'm still using a Condor radio pouch. And honestly, I just like this pouch. I like the way it rides, and it stores the gear that I need to store, and I've used it on multiple different chest rigs I've had, and I've never had any issues. So I know it's not the most high speed or whatever, but it's been a good pouch. I've got this H250 knockoff handset, and honestly, I can't find anything wrong with this thing. I've had it in multiple rainstorms, cold weather, and I just use a piece of bicycle inner tube to secure it to my shoulder strap. And I like it because I can keep the radio volume low and I can hear easily. And then I can just whisper, obviously I'm not whispering right now, but I can whisper in the mic real quietly like this. Next, I've got Blue Force Gear double magazine pouches. And, one thing with this Velcro, that's what, this Condor pouch, I have been looking for a replacement because I want to get rid of Velcro on stuff like that. Now, a magazine pouch, I'm not really worried because if I'm getting into this thing, it means I've been shooting, I'm making lots of noise. It ain't really going to matter at that point. But on a pouch that I need to get into, kind of while I'm patrolling, I don't want that Velcro. So I'll be looking to get rid of that. Next, I've got another set of double magazine pouches. So I'm right-handed. Most of my ammunition is on the left. I've got a cat tourniquet front and center where I can reach it easily with either hand. And then I've got another double magazine pouch on the right side. And then next, I've got two flashbang pouches. This one has a little 8-power Vortex binocular. And this is that quick scanning optic that I can just look around with. It's 8 power. So you can see quite a ways with it. And sometimes when we're looking at stuff, it's not about how far you can see, but it's what you can see. Seeing the details of what's hiding in those bushes in the next draw over is pretty important. Next, I've got another flashbang pouch. This is one of those waterproofed smoke grenades that I detail on the blog how to make. This is just a black smoke grenade for kind of just general purpose use. Okay, next, coming over to the far right side, I've got a Blue Force Gear Trauma Kit Now, I believe it's called. It's a small version. It only takes up about the same width as these magazine pouches, which I really like. And it has a pretty good way of coming out. You just use the flap and you can pull the whole thing out. And I've got another cat tourniquet, an emergency trauma dressing, compressed gauze, trauma shears, and a chest decompression needle all right here. So it works pretty slick. And of course, you might see I've got it dummy corded, so that way, you know, if I have to be moved while people are working on me, this can stay with me. Hopefully it's getting drug along, if nothing else. So next, I'm going to go over the defensive hunter gear. Which is what I would use kind of most of the time. You know, the fighting load is pretty much for fighting. You know, you're not going to go hunting with a 5.56 AR, but you can carry a hell of a lot of ammunition and still be pretty effective overall. My notes real quick. So yeah, this defensive hunter setup, this is kind of my preferred setup. This is what I'm going to run pretty much every day because it is an everyday rig. It's something I can go out right now, and whether I'm hunting, you know, it still retains a lot of the defensive capabilities of the AR without the limitations of the 5.56 cartridge. But I still am not weighing myself down with a big full-sized, full-power rifle cartridge like a 308. So it kind of fits in a nice little niche. I still, with the Skinner Scout Rail, I can change optics to pretty much whatever I want to run. I happen to have my Leatherwood Hilux Scout Scope on right now, but you know, you can pretty much put whatever you want on here. So this gear is based off of the Hill People Gear Heavy Recon kit bag. You know, and it doesn't look, to my eye at least, you know, it doesn't look as tactical as, say, a full-blown chest rig, you know. Lots of hunters, lots of hikers wear things like this. You know, it's not something that I've ever seen used in a professional military unit, although I'm sure there's some out there. This is just iced tea, by the way. But basically, I'm going to follow all the same criteria. I want my observation tools. I want my communications devices. I want my ammunition for my rifle. Okay. So up here on the front, this is a First Spear GP small pouch. It's empty right now, but I can take a, you know, like a Baofeng UV5R. I think those are pretty much the standard radio that everybody should be using, or at least be familiar with, because they're so versatile. And with the smaller battery and one of those stubby antennas, it barely fits in here. So I might look into a different radio pouch, one just a little bigger, because it's very snug. Next, I've got the medium bino pouch from Hill People Gear. And inside of it, I've got my SIG Kilo 8-power laser range finding binos. And then I just use some Velcro One. I love Velcro One wrap for lots of stuff. I've just made a battery holder inside the lid for the laser rangefinder. You know, there's obvious pros and cons to a laser rangefinder, but here's the thing: I don't have to use the laser on it to use them just as binoculars. And if I'm going up against, you know, the Russian army with all of their laser detection equipment, you know, that's just not what I do. So I don't have to worry about that. And if I ever do, I just won't use it. Next, in this main pouch, this is kind of where my IFAK is. I've got an emergency trauma dressing, quick clot, and compressed gauze inside of here. But then at the bottom, I've still got a cat tourniquet in this pouch right here that I can still reach with either hand. Then over here, I've got a few just kind of admin things. I've got my headlamp, and then I've got a Blue Force Gear 10-speed triple mag pouch mounted on the MOLLE in the back of this kit bag. So these are three 15-round 6.5 Grendel magazines. So, combined with another magazine in the rifle, that gives me 60 rounds of ammunition on board. And that should be more than enough to handle just about anything that I would run into. And then in the back of the Hill People Gear kit bag is the second pouch where typically you can store a pistol. Obviously, you can store other items as well. All right, guys, so that's my Line 2 gear for two different setups, both a fighting setup geared more towards if I have to fight other people, and a more hunting, but still defensive setup, what I call the defensive hunter. On both setups, I still have my communications. I've got optics to observe with, and that way I can observe and then communicate what I'm seeing. I have the ammunition to support my rifle. I have immediate trauma items. So if I get hurt, either get shot or some other injury, I can take care of life threatening bleeding immediately. I might carry other first aid kits and things like a PFAC in my ruck. So if I skin my knuckles or whatever, I can take care of that. But that immediate life threatening stuff is on board because your Line 2 gear, when you're in the field, it doesn't come off. It stays on your person all the time. Now obviously if you're out hunting or, recreating, you can probably be a little flexible with that. But in a non-permissive or tactical environment, you're wearing it all the time. And so that's why we have that trauma gear on there. And so at any time, if we get hurt, we've got the ability to immediately start taking care of ourselves. Okay. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. If you're interested in coming out to Montana and training with me, I think I offer a very unique training opportunity that's rare as hell, pretty much anywhere else that I know of in the training community. I've got multiple square miles of area for you to learn land navigation on, rifle marksmanship, and other fieldcraft skills. So make sure you check out my calendar. I've got a class in June that I'm looking to get students for. So hit me up by email if you're interested. Thanks for watching.